Did you know Majora's Mask was made in just 1 year? Not started, not prototyped, finished. The sequel to one of the biggest, most ambitious 3D games ever made, built in the amount of time most studios spend on a single update. After Ocarina was done, Miyamoto asked the team a challenge. If I gave you 1 year, could you make an entirely new Zelda? Using the same engine, the same tools, and almost none of the time. According to director Eiji Aonuma, that's exactly how Majora's Mask began. The team already had a side project, Ocarina of Time Master Quest for the Nintendo 64 DD, so Miyamoto's mandate was simple: reuse what you've got and make something fresh, fast. When asked how he reacted to that 1 year Zelda request, Aonuma laughed and said, "No, I was holding my head." That's how stressed he was. Miyamoto's reasoning made sense though. Ocarina of Time had been delayed several times and took years to ship. He didn't want the next Zelda to vanish into development limbo again. He wanted it within a year. Aonuma agreed, saying it was all about keeping momentum after Ocarina's success. And somehow, they actually did it. By reusing Ocarina's systems, models, and animations, the team turned what could have been Ocarina 1.5 into something far weirder. A surreal fever dream about grief, repetition, and the end of the world. Majora's Mask was a result of one of the most human experiences that everyone has gone through and struggles with: deadlines and work pressure. After Ocarina of Time, Shigeru Miyamoto asked the Zelda team a simple but terrifying question. Could they make another Zelda in about 12 months if they reused Ocarina's engine and assets? According to Eiji Aonuma, that's how Majora's Mask was born. The team was already tinkering with Ocarina's Master Quest for the 64 DD, and Miyamoto wanted something entirely new, fast. That's when Aonuma turned to Yoshiaki Koizumi, the designer behind Mario 64's story logic and Ocarina's cinematic flair. Koizumi pitched an idea that turned panic into brilliance. What if the entire game revolved around repeating the same stretch of time? By reusing Ocarina's day and night system, they could build a smaller world that looped over and over, saving time on content while making the repetition the core mechanic. That's where the legendary 3-day system came from. Because they only had a year, they needed a completely new gameplay concept, and that constraint became the heart of the game itself. The original prototype actually ran on a 1-week cycle, but testers found it impossible to memorize, and the devs realized it'd take too long to build, so they shortened it to 3 days, cramming the same amount of story, character arcs, and tension into a tighter schedule, a mirror of their own workload. Every corner of Termina feels packed, because it has to be. The game world literally reflects its development. Every second counts, every reset matters, and you're constantly racing against the clock. Late in production, Miyamoto suggested they could delay, but Aonuma refused. He said he got angry and insisted on finishing in 1 year, a promise he refused to break. Technically, it wasn't made from scratch. The team reused Ocarina's engine, animations, and NPC models, everything from Link's skeleton data to the Gossip Stones, layering new dungeons, quests, and the time loop on top. That's why the faces in Termina seem hauntingly familiar, because they are. Internally, the project was called Zelda Gaiden, meaning Zelda Side Story, and development began right after Ocarina of Time shipped. By April 2000, almost exactly a year later, Majora's Mask was released in Japan. 1 year, 1 reused engine, and one of the most human games Nintendo ever made, about fear, pressure, and learning how to live and manage time, and the imminent pressure of the end. If you couldn't tell, time is at the center of the game, and is one of the central motifs of the game. Majora's Mask was built like a deadline, and Termina was built like a clock. The game's entire world runs on a global timer. Every villager, every event, every shop opening and closing, all tick forward in real time, and if you miss it, you wait for the loop to reset. Nintendo's own interview explains that townspeople follow individual schedules that advance with the in-game clock, and that the Bomber's Notebook automatically fills in those timetables as you discover troubled people. It's basically a quest log that doubles as a social calendar. There's also the reason the original 1 week idea got cut down to 3 days. Aonuma said that a full 7-day loop was just too much to remember, and too big to build in a year. By compressing it, players could actually learn everyone's habits, memorize where they'd be, and play around with time itself. It's worth calling out just how early that idea was. Shenmue on the Dreamcast technically beat Majora's Mask to shelves, shipping in Japan in December 1999, and it's famous for NPCs who go to work, ride buses, and run shops on real schedules. But Majora's Mask, which followed in April 2000, took that same concept and turned it into the game. Where Shenmue used routines for realism, Zelda used them for gameplay. Every NPC's actions are deterministic, like gears in a puzzle box, meant to be learned, predicted, and manipulated through Link's 3-day resets. And that's what made the Bomber's Notebook so important. It's not just a side feature, it's your way of decoding Termina's living machine, one routine at a time. By the end, you're not just saving the world, you're mastering the clockwork behind it. Historically, this puts Majora's Mask right alongside the pioneers. It wasn't the first 3D console game with scheduled NPCs. That credit goes to Shenmue. But it was one of the first to make those schedules the core mechanic of its design. When you look at later games like Grand Theft Auto 3 or Oblivion, they each went in different directions. GTA's crowds react and pathfind, while Bethesda's Radiant AI runs on goal-based routines. But none of them turned their NPC schedules into a story about time itself. Time changes according to the time zone you're in, and funny enough, and on brand, Majora's Mask changed the way you save depending on the region you got the game in. In the Japanese Nintendo 64 release, players had 3 save files, but owl statues only worked as warp points for the Song of Soaring. You couldn't save them, not even temporarily. The only way to make a permanent save was to play the Song of Time and roll everything back to day 1. That meant every run of the 3-day loop had to be finished in one sitting, unless you wanted to start over. Community comparisons and Japanese Q&A docs confirm this version's design. 3 files, no owl saving, pure time pressure. When the game came to the US and Europe, Nintendo quietly changed that. The international carts cut down to 2 save files, but added a brand new feature, temporary owl saves. Here's how it worked if you saved at an owl statue. The game made a one-time suspend save. When you loaded it, that save was consumed, and you couldn't reload it again. The only permanent way to keep progress was still the Song of Time, but the owl save gave players a break from repeating full cycles. According to the documentation and the Zelda Wiki, the change adding owl save data is why the file count dropped from 3 to 2 in international versions. Nintendo had to carve out memory space for that new mechanic. Later ports followed suit. The GameCube Collector's Edition in Japan mirrored the Western setup, owl quick saves, and 2 files. And when Majora's Mask 3D was released years later, Nintendo finally loosened the rules entirely. You could now save permanently at owl statues, plus at new quill statues, and the 3 save files made a comeback. So depending on where you played, the same game handled time and your progress in totally different ways. In Japan, Majora's Mask was a commitment. In the West, it was a negotiation. And on 3DS, it finally became a mercy. Many real-life concepts inspired Majora's Mask, and some fans speculate that Shigeru Miyamoto inspired the Happy Mask salesman. It's a wild idea, and while there's no official confirmation, it's something that kind of works too well. Nintendo has never said the Happy Mask salesman was modeled on Miyamoto. That resemblance, the bowl cut, the polite smile, the slightly unhinged, "you've met with a terrible fate" energy, all comes from fan discussion, not developer notes. It's one of those long-running community readings that spread across forums and wikis, pointing out that he even moves like Miyamoto used to during early 2000s interviews. Still, the parallel fits almost too neatly to ignore. Miyamoto was the real-world figure who set the rules and deadlines, smiling calmly while handing down an impossible task. The Happy Mask salesman does the same, appearing out of nowhere, setting strict terms, and disappearing again until you meet his expectations. He's charming, he's unnerving, and he's always smiling through the pressure. Miyamoto was the benevolent but demanding creative, pushing Aonuma to deliver in a year. The salesman is the in-game reflection of that tension, the smiling overseer reminding you time is running out. One of the weirdest things that Majora's Mask takes inspiration from is real-life alien abductions. Absolutely absurd. On the first night, around 2:30 a.m., Romani Ranch gets invaded by mysterious hovering figures known only as them. They glide silently across the ranch, firing beams of light that abduct cows, and if you fail to stop them, they take Romani herself. The event ends right at sunrise, around 5:15 a.m., and players have to defend the barn until then. Guides and community notes consistently lock those times in. It's one of the most specific timed events in the whole game. So why are there aliens in a Zelda game? According to Eiji Aonuma, it wasn't random at all. He explained in an interview that when the team was making Majora's Mask, Japan was deep in a UFO boom. TV shows were running late-night specials about extraterrestrials and even explaining terms like cattle mutilation to mainstream audiences. Aonuma said seeing all that made him think it would be interesting and scary to put something similar into the game. So the Romani Ranch mission is basically a late 90s Japanese UFO fever dream turned into a Zelda quest. And if you've ever thought those them look oddly familiar, you're not wrong. Their design closely resembles the Flatwood Monster, a real-life cryptid from a 1952 sighting in West Virginia, tall with glowing eyes and a spade-shaped headpiece. The resemblance has been pointed out for years in Zelda analyses and breakdowns of Majora's Mask's creature designs. So between alien hysteria in Japan and American cryptid lore, Majora's Mask somehow blended Cold War UFO paranoia into the emotional apocalypse of Termina. In The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, the sequence involving Romani at Romani Ranch stands out as one of the game's most unsettling and psychologically complex events. On the first night of the 3-day cycle, the young and cheerful Romani asks Link to help her protect the ranch from mysterious ghostly figures, commonly called aliens by fans, that come to abduct the cows. If Link succeeds, the event ends happily, and Romani remains her bright, playful self. However, if he fails to defend the barn, the consequences are haunting. The next day, Romani is missing, and when she reappears, she is profoundly changed, silent, expressionless, and detached from reality. Her sister, Crimea, quietly remarks that Romani has been through a lot, implying that something terrible happened to her during the night. Though the game never explicitly describes what the aliens do, the suggestion is clear. Romani has endured some form of psychological trauma, often interpreted as brainwashing, mind control, or a metaphorical violation of her innocence. Romani's vacant stare, lack of speech, and subdued behavior all reflect the symptoms of post-traumatic stress, disassociation, emotional numbness, and avoidance. Her transformation from a lively, imaginative child into a withdrawn and broken figure symbolizes the loss of innocence through a traumatic experience. The eerie ambiguity of what the aliens truly represent deepens the psychological horror. They may stand for forces of death, violation, or the incomprehensible nature of fear itself. Through this, Majora's Mask presents a subtle but powerful depiction of how trauma can erase a person's vitality without leaving visible wounds. The game's time loop mechanic intensifies this tragedy. Link can reset time by playing the Song of Time, effectively undoing Romani's suffering if he succeeds in a new cycle. Yet this also underscores one of the game's core themes, that even when pain is reversed, it can never be permanently erased. The ranch is doomed to face the same threat again and again, much like the endless cycles of grief and loss that define Termina. Okay, this one's a deep cut, literally hiding right at the title screen. Did you know Majora's Mask actually has an alternate opening? When you boot up the game, if you press up on the control stick, then tap A on the options menu, let the game save, and hit B to go back, the visual Clocktown background vanishes. Instead, you'll see Romani Ranch sitting under the twilight sky. It's subtle, no flashy effect, no secret unlocked sound, but there it is, an alternate title screen quietly tucked away, showing the very same ranch that hosts one of the weirdest, most unsettling missions in the game, the UFO abduction. There's no official comment on why it's there, but fans have long speculated it was meant as a debug leftover or alternate intro test, since Romani Ranch plays such a unique role in the story. Others think it's just a stylistic Easter egg, a quiet nod to the game's mood of mystery and repetition. Either way, it's one of those little secrets that perfectly fit Majora's Mask's personality. You dig just beneath the surface, and you find something that shouldn't be there. Strange, haunting, and a little bit magical. Talking about Majora's Mask's inspiration, the dev's nightmare made it into the game as well. In the Majora's Mask 3D Iwata Asks, Aonuma admitted that near the end of the project, the team was under severe time constraints. He was exhausted and stressed, and one night, he dreamed that Deku's appeared to him. It got so intense that he woke up screaming. The next morning, he walked into the office and told cutscene director Takumi Kawagai about it. And that's when Kawagai told him something chilling. He had just finished a new cinematic, a movie for the Dekus. When Aonuma sat down to watch it, he realized it matched his nightmare exactly. Kawagai was the one responsible for all of Majora's Mask's in-game cutscenes, so the movie for the Dekus he was talking about is widely understood to be the intro transformation sequence, where Skullkid curses Link and turns him into a Deku scrub. It's one of the game's most surreal and disturbing moments, and apparently, it came straight out of Aonuma's subconscious. The timing lines up perfectly in Nintendo's own records. The Iwata Asks page places Aonuma's dream, Kawagai's movie, and the Deku transformation cutscene back to back in the timeline of late production. So that moment where the camera spins, the music warps, and Link's body contorts into a trembling Deku scrub, that wasn't just a creative direction. It was a nightmare made real. And honestly, it makes sense. The entire game was born under relentless time pressure, a project haunted by deadlines, looping clocks, and developers literally dreaming about the characters chasing them. It's almost poetic that Majora's Mask opens with a dream-turned-nightmare, because that's exactly how the game itself was made. Ticking time is one of the themes in Majora's Mask, and honestly, it's there in the music as well. The game's score was primarily written by Koji Kondo, but it also marked the debut of a new Zelda composer, Toru Minegishi, who contributed the 3 core battle tracks, Battle, Mini-Boss, and Boss. Their work all came together on the official 2-disc soundtrack, released in Japan on June 23, 2000, containing 112 tracks in total. But what really makes Majora's Mask's music special isn't just who wrote it, it's how it works. Every major theme in the game was composed to evolve as the 3-day cycle progresses, literally mirroring the shrinking time you have left. Take Clocktown, for example. On day 1, it's upbeat and bustling, full instrumentation, a sense of optimism. By day 2, that same tune is leaner, slightly faster, just a little uneasy. And by day 3, the warmth is gone. The melody collapses into darker harmonies and a frantic tempo. It's the same music, just falling apart with the world. Nintendo-focused write-ups point out this exact structure, the same tune escalating tension design that makes the soundtrack feel like the countdown. And then comes the moment everyone remembers, final hours. Right before the moon crashes, the music cuts to that old, minimalist piano cue, soft, slow, and suffocating. It's the sound of dread itself, the emotional vice tightening before everything resets. Analysts and OST listings all agree. Final Hours is the score's breaking point, the point where the music stops counting time and starts counting loss. This wasn't an accident. Nintendo's own interviews around the 3DS remake confirm it. The devs designed the presentation so that players would feel the pressure of the countdown. The falling moon isn't just visual tension, it's musical tension. Every cycle, the game strips away a little more comfort until even silence feels threatening. That's the brilliance of Majora's Mask's score. It's cyclical, compressive, a loop that starts familiar and ends in panic. By the time Final Hours hits, you don't need a timer to know the end is near. You can hear it. The Link is Dead theory from The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask proposes that the hero of time actually dies at the beginning of the game, and that the world of Termina serves as a kind of purgatory for Link. It adds up as the name Termina is based off the word terminal, which is synonymous with death or being close to death. According to this interpretation, Link's journey is not a literal adventure, but a symbolic process of coming to terms with his own death. The game opens up with Link searching for his lost companion, Navi, and wandering into the mysterious Lost Woods. a place in Zelda lore where those who lose their way are said to vanish or transform. When Skull Kid ambushes him and he falls into a dark abyss before awakening in the strange world of Termina, this descent is seen as a metaphorical passage into the realm of purgatory. The entire game then unfolds as an allegory of grief, acceptance, and spiritual transformation. Each of Termina's 5 major regions corresponds to one of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's 5 stages of grief. Clocktown represents denial, where the townspeople pretend the moon isn't falling. Woodfall embodies anger, with the Deku King's fury and misplaced blame reflecting the rage that accompanies loss. In Snowhead, bargaining takes form as Link tries to bring back the fallen Goron hero by wearing his mask, a futile attempt to reverse death. Great Bay captures depression through the sorrow of the dying Zora musician, Mikau, and by helping him find peace and closure. Finally, Ikana Canyon stands for acceptance, where Link helps restless spirits find peace, symbolizing his own readiness to move on. Through this progression, the player witnesses Link's emotional and spiritual evolution as he gradually reconciles with mortality. The transformation masks throughout Majora's Mask further reinforce this interpretation. Each mask represents a fragment of identity or a spirit of the dead, and when Link dons them, he literally takes on the lives and memories of those who have passed. This would explain the excruciating pain that Link receives while wearing any one of the transformation masks. This suggests a deep empathy for the dead, and a symbolic process of understanding death by experiencing it from multiple perspectives. The recurring 3-day time cycle reflects the repetitive and cyclical nature of grief, reliving moments of loss until one learns from them. The moon looming above Termina serves as a constant reminder of death's inevitability, while each reset of time mirrors the attempt to delay or undo the end, much like how the grieving mind replays memories in search of closure. Emotionally, Majora's Mask follows Link's attempt to cope with the losses from Ocarina of Time. He has been stripped of his role as a hero, sent back in time, and left alone after Navi's departure. In this light, Termina becomes a projection of his psyche, filled with echoes of familiar faces and unresolved emotions. The final battle and the sunrise that follows symbolize release. After confronting Majora, Link finally achieves peace and rides off into the light, suggesting transcendence or acceptance of death. A strong factor backing this theory is the character of the hero Shade from Twilight Princess, which is a direct sequel to Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, and falls under the same child-era timeline. The hero Shade is a mysterious undead character, resembling that of a Stalfos, that helps Link throughout his travels by serving as a mentor figure and teaching him new sword skills. His identity is slowly revealed to the late Hero of Time, suggesting that the hero didn't get a peaceful end, as he is still lingering on as an undead. Furthermore, it's stated in Ocarina of Time that if you get lost in the Lost Woods, you end up turning up as either a Skull Kid if you are a child, or as a Stalfos if you are an adult. Link is physically a 13-year-old teenager in Majora's Mask, but mentally he is the same adult Link from Ocarina of Time, which would make sense in him being a Stalfos. From a mythic and psychological perspective, the theory aligns with archetypal descents into the underworld, seen in stories like Dante's Inferno or Orpheus. It also parallels Jungian interpretations of the self, confronting its shadow, as Link faces distorted reflections of his fears and memories throughout Termina. Ultimately, whether or not Link truly dies is less important than what the journey represents, which is a thorough meditation on grief, loss, and healing, portraying death not as an end, but as a process of understanding, acceptance, and renewal. Majora's Mask has a full-on night bar that only serves milk? Yeah, because nothing says E for everyone like a tipsy rancher slurring about dairy at 3 a.m. Here's what the game actually shows. In East Clocktown, there's the Milk Bar, a members-only spot that only opens at night. You need Romani's mask just to get in, and once you're inside, the bartender only serves 2 drinks, plain old milk and the good stuff, Chateau Romani. Chateau Romani, or CR, is treated like an adult-only beverage. On the final night, Crimea tells her younger sister Romani she now considers her an adult, and lets her drink Chateau Romani for the first time. She even admits she'd forbidden it before. The timing? The literal eve of the apocalypse. So either that's a touching coming-of-age moment, or the world's saddest last call, as it's implied that Crimea got Romani intoxicated so that she won't remember her last moments in pain and fear of death. And then there's Gorman, the bar's most loyal customer. He's already there, swaying in his chair, hiccuping his way through this gem of a line. Milk. It's milk. Can you get tipsy from something like milk? Yeah, buddy. That's definitely not just calcium deficiency talking. Gameplay-wise, Chateau Romani cost 200 rupees, and drinking it gives you unlimited magic power for the rest of that 3-day cycle. Regular milk only restores hearts, so the fancy stuff clearly hits different. Now, Nintendo's never said it's alcohol, but come on, it's sold only at a night bar to members only, described as for adults, and one of the customers is clearly drunk. Even the fan wikis point out it might be inspired by fermented milk drinks like kumis, a real-world beverage that actually can get you tipsy. So yeah, Chateau Romani might not technically be booze, but it sure acts like it. It's the closest thing to a Zelda Tavern hangover you'll ever get, at least until Twilight Princess. Beating Majora's Mask in one cycle. Did you know there's a challenge called the Single Cycle Run, where players try to beat Majora's Mask without ever playing the Song of Time? No rewinds, no resets, just one continuous 3-day loop before the moon smashes everything to pieces. On the original N64 version, if you play the inverted Song of Time, the in-game clock slows to 1/3 speed. That gives you about 2 hours and 44 minutes of real time before the world ends. If you don't slow time, it's roughly 55 minutes. Basically a YouTube video's length to save the universe. So, is it possible? Not really. At least, not without bending the game in half. According to the speedrunning community, a true one-cycle clear after the intro just isn't realistic glitch-free. There are hard time gates baked into the story, like needing Epona to reach Great Bay, which forces you through Woodfall and Snowhead first. The best accepted, fewest cycles route, without glitches, is 2 full loops, 1 to prep, 1 to finish. But with glitches and tool assistance? Oh, absolutely. Speedrunners have shown first cycle and single cycle completions that are so fast they break casuality. Using movement exploits, sequence breaks, and storage tricks, modern any percent routes can destroy Majora's Mask in absurdly short times. They're incredible showcases, but they're more science experiment than normal playthrough. And if you're trying it on Majora's Mask 3D, good luck. The inverted Song of Time on 3DS only slows time to half speed, not 1/3 like on N64. That means your real-world window shrinks to about 1 hour and 49 minutes per loop, making single-cycle runs even tighter and way more stressful. Pulling it off requires near-perfect routing, getting the bow, fire arrows, powder keg, Epona, hookshot, and access to all 4 temples in that one cycle, juggling aggressive time tech, constant inverted Song of Time management, precise day-night triggers, and nearly 0 wasted frames. It's less speedrun and more temporal surgery. Majora's Mask was once planned for release in China, but never actually came out. Yeah, it's one of the few Zelda games that was officially promoted for a platform, and then disappeared completely. In 2003, Nintendo launched a joint venture with a Chinese company called iQue. The result was the iQue Player, basically a miniature Nintendo 64 that plugged directly into a TV and downloaded games digitally. It was designed to fit within China's strict home console restrictions at the time, and it launched with a small, rotating library of just 14 games. One of those games was The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, and printed right there on iQue promotional materials and packaging was its sequel, Majora's Mask. It was teased, advertised, even listed as coming soon, but it never arrived. Community archivists have since preserved packaging shots, screenshots, and reference data that prove an iQue build of Majora's Mask existed in some form. It just never shipped. So what happened? There's no official statement from Nintendo or iQue explaining why it was cancelled. But fans and preservationists have pieced together a few theories. The first theory is tight censorship in China. China in the early 2000s had strict media content rules, and Majora's Mask's darker themes, death, grief, literal moonfall apocalypse might not have cleared approval. It's a popular explanation across trivia sites, but there's no primary source confirming it. Think of it as a fan theory, not a fact. The second theory is technical. Community documentation around the iCube project notes that Majora's Mask's save system was tricky to port. The iCube player's internal save pipeline wasn't standardized until later releases like Animal Crossing, and no iCube version of Majora's Mask's translation ever surfaced. That makes technical or production hurdles a pretty plausible reason for the cancellation, though again, not officially confirmed. And finally, there's the business angle. Some community wikis suggest iQ's development focus shifted toward newer products like the iQ GBA, and Majora's Mask quietly fell through the cracks. Here's a tiny day-by-day Easter egg hiding in Majora's Mask's southern swamp. Most players blast through this section to unlock the cruise boat and move on to Woodfall. But if you stop and watch, the game quietly changes who's where and when. Here's how it actually works. On day 1, you'll find Kome injured in the Woods of Mystery after being attacked by Skull Kid. Her sister, Kotake, is still at the potion shop, and if you tell her what happened, she hands you a red potion to bring to Kome. Simple enough. Rescue the witch, unlock the boat cruise, save the swamp. But if you don't help Kome by the dawn of the second day, things shift. Kotake closes up shop and literally takes off on her broom to look for her missing sister herself. You can spot her flying through the woods, and the potion shop will be empty while she's gone. No refills, no purchases. Once you find her in the forest, she gives you the red potion right there, and the quest continues as normal. By day 2 or 3, this becomes the default state. Kotake out searching, shop closed, and the only way forward is to find her in the woods. The core story doesn't change, but the presentation does, turning a basic fetch quest into a living, timed event that reacts to the world's 3-day clock. It's a small touch, but it's the kind of dynamic scheduling that makes Termina feel truly alive, and just a little panicked. And here's the best part. Inside the potion shop, community detectives noticed a blink and you'll miss it visual gag. Kotake is actually standing on a box behind the counter, so she can see over it. It's such a subtle joke that most players never catch it. A little height assist for a witch who's great at brewing potions, but not quite tall enough to run retail. Did you know that fixing broken signs with the ocarina makes a return in Majora's Mask? Yup, just like in Ocarina of Time, you can slice a wooden signpost in half, then stand next to the shattered pieces and play the Song of Healing. The fragments magically slide back together, perfectly repaired, ready to be read again. Majora's Mask hides a full-blown boss rush behind a waterfall? Yeah, tucked away in Ikana Canyon, right in the southwest corner of the river. There's a secret cave most players swim past without realizing it's even there. If you swim upstream and look behind the waterfall, you'll spot a stone door with a sun crest above it. Shoot that crest with a light arrow, and boom, it unlocks. You can actually peek inside before you have light arrows, but the real challenge won't start until you've got them. It's like the game quietly telling you, come back when you're ready, hero. Once inside, you'll find a few pots and patches of grass for supplies, and standing in the middle, a Poe collector. Yeah, the same kind of ghost who normally trades souls for cash is now running a combat arena. He basically says, "Welcome to my boss rush, Link," and 4 corridors open up. Each one leads to a rematch against a major mini-boss from earlier in the game. First up, you've got 3 Dinolfos, a close quarters brawl that's all about timing your blocks and counter spins. Then there's the Wizrobe, teleporting around like a maniac. You can tell which one's real by watching the shimmer and listening for the sound cue. After that, you'll face Wart, the giant eyeball covered in bubbles. Pop the bubbles, then strike the core when it drops from the ceiling. And finally, the Garo Master, Ikana's deadliest swordsman. He teleports behind you mid-combo, so don't mash, just guard, wait, and punish. Beat all 4, and a chest appears in the central hall with a piece of heart inside. Plus, each boss gives you a silver rupee worth 100 on your first clear, but just once per cycle. No infinite cash farming here. Sorry, treasure hunters. If you want a few tips, bring light arrows, obviously, and make sure your magic supply is solid. Or better yet, drink some Chateau Romani before you go in. Unlimited magic for the whole 3-day cycle makes this place way easier. And when you're done, just warp out using the Song of Soaring from the nearest owl statue to bank your rupees. What makes the secret shrine so cool is how optional it is. It's basically Majora's Mask's hidden final exam, a tiny dungeon that tests whether you've mastered every trick the game's taught you. And the fact that a Poe collector is the one hosting it, that's perfect. Ikana is the land of restless spirits, and here, you're literally fighting the ghosts of your own past battles. Majora's Mask takes inspiration from the Red Kid from Hell, not the devil, but something close, Hellboy. According to Majora's Mask illustrator Yusuke Nakano, while he was working on the game, he was especially into the Hellboy series, adding, who knows, maybe its imagery influenced my own illustration. That line comes straight from a Nintendo Power interview and gets cited in just about every Zelda art retrospective since. Now to be clear, the Hellboy influence isn't about the in-game graphics, it's about Nakano's key art, the box covers, the Space World 99 promo posters, and the official illustrations that defined the game's mood outside the cartridge. And when you look at them, the influence is unmistakable. Big blocks of shadow instead of soft shading, sharp highlights that carve characters out of darkness, moody, bruised color palettes, all purples, greens, and ochres that feel more gothic comic than heroic fantasy. Even the faces look different from Ocarina of Time's softer designs. The eyes are darker, the expressions mask-like, and the shapes more severe. It's textbook Mike Mignola, the creator of Hellboy, whose style is all about chiaroscuro, letting darkness define the shape instead of the light. Nakano leaned into that heavily for Majora's Mask, and the result was key art that feels heavy, haunted, and theatrical, exactly what the game itself is about. Meanwhile, the in-game art direction came from Takaya Imamura, the designer behind the moon, Tingle, and the mask itself. So think of it this way. Imamura built the strange world of Termina, and Nakano painted its tone. One made the nightmares, the other gave them their shadows. That Mignola look ended up being the perfect fit for Majora's Mask's themes, even though the N64 couldn't render all that moody contrast. The promo art told you what kind of story you were walking into. Not another bright hero's quest, but a slow descent into time, fear, and mortality. The chiaroscuro, those stark blacks and eerie lights, made the moon feel like a character, not just a backdrop. The masks looked less like trinkets, more like empty faces, and every color choice whispered that this adventure wasn't about triumph. It was about tension, dread, and the countdown. Link's shield in Majora's Mask isn't the same one from Ocarina of Time. It looks close, but it's not the Hylian shield. It's a brand new design called the Hero Shield, and it was made that way on purpose. According to designer Yoshiki Haruhana, they wanted something that would stand out from Ocarina's equipment. Since Majora's Mask stars Child Link, who couldn't equip the full-sized Hylian shield in the previous game, Haruhana created a new, smaller shield unique to this darker world. And there's a little detail most people miss: the bird emblem. That's not the classic Hylian crest. Haruhana specifically said that because Majora's Mask's world was on the dark side, he decided to use a nocturnal bird instead, an owl motif. It's subtle but fitting. In a game obsessed with the passage of time and the wisdom that comes with it, an owl, symbol of night and knowledge, makes perfect sense. Meanwhile, the original Hylian shield's bird, that wasn't about the Loftwing at all. Illustrator Yusuke Nakano later explained that when the Hylian shield design was first made, that bird didn't mean anything specific. It was just a cool emblem. Only years later, when Skyward Sword came along, did Nintendo retroactively tie that symbol to Link's Crimson Loftwing and Hylian legend. Rupees, the staple currency of the Zelda world. And did you know, in Majora's Mask, there is a bird that literally throws rupees at you, Out in Termina Field, right along the outer walls of Clocktown, a single Gui, that's the black crow-looking enemy, flies lazy circles all day long. Unlike most Gui, this one doesn't attack you, it just loops overhead, minding its own business, until you pull out your instrument. If Link stands nearby and plays one of the 4 temple songs, the Sonata of Awakening, Goron Lullaby, or New Wave Bossa Nova, you don't even need the Elegy of Emptiness. The Gui suddenly starts dropping rupees in a trail behind it. The more you collect, the higher the value climbs, usually ending on a red rupee if you grab them all. Zelda Dungeon's breakdown spells it out. The bird drops 20 rupees total, most of them green, but if you keep up, the 5th, 10th, and 15th become blue, and the final drop turns red. If you chase it while rolling as Goron Link or riding Epona, the Gui actually speeds up, and the reward pattern stays consistent, a literal flying bonus round if you can keep pace. There's even a second version of this Easter egg. If you spy on a distant Gui through the Astral Observatory telescope, it'll eventually drop a red rupee out in Termina Field, a little reward for curious stargazers who pay attention. The truth even gives you a hint, but only if you're wearing the Mask of Truth. There's a gossip stone on the south side of Termina Field that whispers, "It seems the crows that fly near the town walls are fond of musical instruments." And sure enough, they are, because this one bird is secretly a fan of your Ocarina playlist. It's a completely optional secret. Doesn't affect quests, masks, or progress, but it's the perfect little piece of world flavor, a reward for stopping, listening, and literally playing with time. Another way to earn a few quick rupees through music again is by heading to a place called Cliff Notes, but you may not remember a place called Cliff Notes. If you head to the northern stretch of Termina Field, just below the ramp leading up towards Snowhead, you'll find a small stone wall carved with a musical staff and notes. Fans nicknamed it the Cliff Notes, and when you play the melody that's etched into the rock on your ocarina, the wall actually responds. Rupees pop out as a reward. On the Nintendo 64 version, it's even cheekier. The engraving sits next to a drawing of the Skull Kid, and when you hit the tune correctly, the rupees seem to burst right out of the doodle, like Skull Kid himself is tossing you pocket change for a good performance. It's not a jackpot. We're talking a few blue or red rupees total, depending on the pattern, but it's a charming little wink for players who take the time to explore. Some of the melodies carved into that cliff are actually recognizable warp songs from Ocarina of Time, the Prelude of Light, the Bolero of Fire. They show up here as faint echoes of Link's past life in Hyrule. There's no warping this time. Termina doesn't play by those rules, but the callback is deliberate. It's a nostalgic bridge, a musical memory of where you've been. Even in the 3DS remake, the mechanics are still there. The visual dressing changes. The Skull Kid drawing becomes rupee etchings, but the idea is the same. Find the notes, match them on your ocarina, and the world rewards you with a little burst of color and sound. Here's another hidden way to make some quick rupees. There's a big silver rupee chest tucked away on the roofline above the shooting gallery in East Clocktown, right over the archery shop sign. Crack it open, and you'll get a clean 100 rupees. And the best part? It respawns every time you reset the 3-day cycle with the Song of Time. So yeah, it's basically Termina's version of a savings plan. There are 2 reliable ways up there. Route A, the Bunny Hood route. Start in East Clocktown, near the steps by Honey and Darling's shop. Equip the Bunny Hood, then hop your way across the rooftop ledges and signposts above the gate leading out to Termina Field. Keep moving along the top edge toward the shooting gallery, and you'll find the chest nestled behind the shop sign. Pop it open, and you're instantly 100 rupees richer. No bombs required. Route B, the Observatory approach. If you're already heading through the bomber's hideout toward the Astral Observatory, you can use the platforms and door frames on that side to work your way back over the East Clocktown roofs. It's a little longer, but it drops you right next to the same chest. Most guide videos use this method because it's an easy detour on your first cycle. And yes, this trick works in both the N64 original and the 3DS remake. Speedrunners still route it as a fast way to fund early masks, minigames, or deposits at the bank. But that's not the only 100 rupee chest in Clocktown. If you're doing a quick cash chain at the start of a cycle, you can hit 3 of them in a row. The Shooting Gallery Rooftop chest for 100 rupees. The Observatory Tunnel Alcove chest. Just bomb the cracked wall along the sewer path for another 100. And the Stockpot Inn chest. On the night of the final day when the inn's empty, check Anju's room for one last 100. Hit all 3, drop the haul at the bank, and that's an easy 300 rupees. If I had known these tips, man, I would be rolling in rupees. Majora's Masks has many masks in the game, but in my opinion, they didn't use one of the creepiest masks in the game, because the idea of wearing your own mask is quite creepy, at least to me. Yup, buried in the game's data, there's a fully textured, modeled mask of young Link's head. It's not just a leftover name or debug slot, it's a real 3D asset, complete with its own texture map. Data miners have been able to pull it up for years with ROM tools, and it shows up in multiple unused content archives. You can even find screenshots of it sitting in the inventory, and when hackers force it into gameplay, the results are unsettling. In one recreation, Skull Kid wears the mask instead of Majora's Mask during the opening cutscene, grinning behind Link's own face. It's only a fan demo, not proof of intent, but it gives you a sense of how far along that asset really was. So what was it for? No one at Nintendo ever said. But there are a few plausible theories, some technical, some thematic. The most grounded one is that it was a prototype transformation mask, or maybe a revert mask. Early in development, the team experimented with a bunch of identity-based masks, including a cut adult mask. Hyrule Historia even shows concept art of an adult Link from that era, designs that later evolved into Fierce Deity Link. In that environment, a Link mask could have been a developer test item, or an early system to flip between forms before the transformation mechanic was finalized. There are also symbolic theories, of course. Fans love the idea that a mask of Link's own face might represent identity loss or self-confrontation. It fits Majora's Mask's obsession with identity and memory, but there's no developer quote backing that up. It's purely interpretive. And then there's the Skull Kid theory, where people suggest the mask was meant for him originally, mostly because of the hacked demo footage. But again, that's a leap from demonstration to design. No source confirms it. The most likely reason it never made it into the final game? Time. The team built Majora's Mask in about 1 year, and they've said many features were cut to meet that deadline. Once Fierce Deity Link took the late-game power form slot, a redundant Link face mask didn't fit the cleaner rule of mask equals other identity. And since you already revert by simply removing a transformation mask, the Link mask's mechanical purpose disappeared. Still, something is haunting about it. The idea of Link literally wearing his own face. It's not canon, it's not functional, but it's perfectly Majora's Mask, a ghost of an idea left behind in the code, staring back at you from the darkness. Majora's Mask references a lot of games and media, but there's a bit in MM that hints at a console. If you head into the Astral Observatory, down to the lower floor near the Scarecrow, you'll find a few small pots sitting in the corner. Smash them, and under one of them, you'll spot a simple sketch of a dolphin on the floor. It's easy to miss. Most players never break every pot down there, but it's right there in the N64 version, etched into the texture. Fans quickly caught on that this wasn't random graffiti. In 1999, while Majora's Mask was still in development, Nintendo's next console was being built under the codename Project Dolphin. That system, of course, would eventually launch as the GameCube in 2001. So a dolphin drawing hiding inside a 2000 Zelda game? Yeah, that's a pretty clear developer in-joke. A quiet wave to what was coming next. The Observatory Dolphin wasn't the only meta-nod either. Majora's Mask hides a handful of playful Nintendo references if you look closely. Fans have even spotted algae patterns underwater near the clock tower that resemble N64 controllers. Tiny textural winks from the devs to the hardware that powered the game. So the next time you're in the observatory, smash those pots and take a look under the floor. It's not just a doodle, it's Majora's Mask quietly waving hello to the console that would carry Zelda's future. Questlines are one of the reasons why the Zelda games are so memorable. Majora's Mask is no exception. Majora's Mask has one of the most interesting questlines, with a cool mechanic that changes. Don't we love it when we get alternate endings, even in questlines? And imagine this all contained in the 3 cycle. And this quest will definitely prove it to you that this game understands time really, really well. It starts on the first night. Romani, the ranch's little sister, pulls you aside and tells you the ranch will be attacked by them. You know, the floating, glowing things that come down from the sky around 2:30 a.m. From there, you've got to hold the barn until sunrise, about 5:15 a.m. If you win, the ranch survives and Romani stays safe. If you fail, she's gone, abducted, and when she comes back the next day, she's dazed, quiet, and not the same. It's honestly one of the eeriest outcomes in the entire game. Then comes the second day, when her sister Crimea asks you to ride shotgun on her milk delivery run to Clocktown. It's not just a delivery, it's an escort mission through the Gorman Detour, where masked bandits ride up to smash the bottles, keep the milk intact, and Crimea thanks you with Romani's mask, your pass into the members-only milk bar latte. It's the kind of side quest that feels mundane on paper, but in Majora's Mask, even a milk run feels like the end of the world. But here's the beautiful part. The second time you help her, there's no reward item left. You've already got the mask. This time, when you reach Clocktown safely, she just stops the wagon and hugs you. No dialogue box, no item jingle, just a quiet, wordless embrace. Sometimes she gives you a rupee reward instead. It's a variable outcome, but when you get the hug, it's unforgettable. And you know what's wild? That moment hits harder than any mask or item in the whole game, mainly because throughout the entirety of his hero career, Link has never received love or affection for his devotion and sacrifice. It's Majora's Mask doing what it does best, choosing to do less, not more. The second playthrough strips away the loot and just gives you a connection, a simple human thank you in a world that's running out of time. And that restraint, that silence, is why it stays with players decades later. If you stick around the ranch until the final day, you'll see one last scene that ties it all together. Crimea, knowing the moon might fall, tells Romani she's an adult now and lets her drink Chateau Romani, the adult's only milk you can buy in town. Then she gently tells her to sleep in her bed that night. It's equal parts loving, heartbreaking, and ominous. A sister comforting her sibling before the sky comes down. And that's the beauty of this quest. It's not about saving the world. It's about saving someone's world for just a little longer. A midnight defense, a dangerous road, and a hug that says, "We made it this time." Honestly, when I first replayed this part years later, I remember just sitting there after the hug. No button prompts, no music sting, and thinking, man, this game understood time better than any game had a right to. Majora's Mask is the most depressing game in the franchise, no doubt. Just the existence of the all-night mask kept me up all night as a kid. Do you know why this piece of horror exists? It's literally just so you don't sleep. Completely understandable. This would definitely keep me up all night. Yeah, for all its metal spikes and horror movie straps, this thing's entire purpose is to keep Link from dozing off while listening to Anju's grandmother at the Stockpot Inn. Normally, when you sit down for one of her long stories, Link just nods off halfway through. But if you wear the all-night mask, he stays awake the whole time. And at the end, you can answer her quiz questions for 2 pieces of heart. So all that unsettling design for book club attendance. Now, getting the mask takes a bit of timing. On the night of the first day around midnight, a thief named Sakon tries to rob the bomb shop lady in North Clocktown. If you stop him, the town's black market dealer, the curiosity shop in West Clocktown, will stock the all-night mask on the night of the final day for 500 rupees. If you don't stop the robbery, Sakon successfully steals the big bomb bag, and that becomes the curiosity shop's inventory instead. So basically every cycle, the shop either sells explosives or insomnia. Either way, something shady's going down in Clocktown. And here's the wild part. The game itself calls the mask a torture device. A gossip stone literally says, "This mask, sometimes found at the Curiosity Shop, is a torture device of insomnia." And in the 3DS remake, the item description doubles down, reading, "A mask that stops you from falling asleep. They say it was made for torture." That's not fan theory. That's straight from Nintendo's own text, and it fits perfectly with where you get it. The Curiosity Shop is basically Termina's underworld pawn shop. Its whole inventory depends on stolen goods, and the all-night mask's presence there, plus its torture lore, sells the idea that it's not just rare, it's illicit. Of course, fans have run wild with the imagery. The metal straps, the bolts, the muzzle-like shape, it all looks like restraint gear. Combine that with the gossip stone line about inducing insomnia, and it's easy to read it as something far darker than its actual use. But to be clear, there's no cutscene or direct reference to anyone actually using it for torture. There's a popular fan theory that the all-night mask was used by the Kingdom of Ikana to torture their rivals, that being the Garo ninjas, for extortion of useful information and for some sick sense of entertainment. Still, it's one of those details that shows just how weird Majora's Mask can get. Only this item would make you stop a mugging, buy a medieval nightmare mask, and then use it to stay awake for Grandma's bedtime stories. If you're planning to get it yourself, here's the quick rundown. Save up 500 rupees before night 3. Stop Sakon on the first night. Then on the final night, hit the Curiosity Shop to buy the mask. And when you finally use it, remember the answers to Grandma's questions. For the giant story, say, "I don't know." And for the Carnival of Time, pick the correct historical answer. 2 heart pieces. No nap required. Do you remember Rob the robot? You probably don't. And honestly, who could blame you? Rob, the robotic operating buddy, was Nintendo's short-lived robot accessory from the mid-80s. He came bundled with the NES during its US launch, promised to be your robot gaming partner, and mostly just confused kids with spinning gyros and blinking lights. The last place I would expect this jolly and fun little robot would be is in Majora's Mask. But spoiler alert, he's already there. You can actually spot Rob sitting on boxes inside the Curiosity Shop, but you can't walk in to see him. Instead, you have to spy on him through a peephole during the Anju and Keifi side quest. Here's how to do it. On day 2 of the quest, once you've gained access to Keifi's hideout at the laundry pool, climb onto the crate and look through the small peephole that faces the Curiosity Shop's back room. Pan your view across the shelves, and there he is, Rob, sitting quietly in the corner just below the wall clock, surrounded by boxes. It's subtle but unmistakable. The same white shell, round eyes, and tiny robot base that used to sit next to an NES. This is a perfect Nintendo deep cut. In the original N64 version, Rob isn't there at all. He was added for the 3DS remake, where Nintendo sprinkled in a few new hardware nods. An Ultra Hand toy in the Bomb Shop, Rob in the Curiosity Shop, like a mini museum of Nintendo oddities hiding in plain sight. And in the same place, you'll also see the GameCube, and not just the cube. The devs even gave it a Game Boy player attached underneath. If you walk into the Bomb Shop in the 3DS remake and look behind the counter, you'll see this big, square, metal furnace sitting behind the clerks. Except, it's not a furnace. Get your camera low, zoom in, and you'll start to notice the shape. That perfect square body, the circular disc door on top, the front vent that looks a lot like controller ports, and the thick base that's clearly modeled after the Game Boy Player add-on. Once you notice it, you can't unsee it. And just to the right of it, that's a Nintendo Ultra Hand, a real toy the company sold back in the late 1960s, long before Mario was even a thing. It's the same extendable arm gadget that later inspired the Ultra Hand power-up in WarioWare. Get it together, decades later. None of this was in the original N64 release. The Bomb Shop back then was pretty bare. No GameCube, no Ultra Hand, no extra flair. But when Nintendo rebuilt Majora's Mask for 3DS, they sprinkled in little hardware Easter eggs all over Clock Shop. There's Rob in the Curiosity Shop, the Cube and Game Boy Player here in the Bomb Shop. And if you pan around the walls of Termina, You'll even find nods to older in-jokes, like the missing Project Dolphin Doodle from the observatory. It's like Nintendo updated its own inside jokes to match the times. Back in 2000, the Easter eggs were about the future, Project Dolphin teasing the GameCube. By 2015, those secrets became nostalgic tributes to the past. Going along with the little love letters hidden in the game, how could we forget the 10 billion barrel? And it's no random off-Nintendo experiment. One designed by Gunpei Yokoi, the man behind the Game Boy, as well as Samus Aran. If you head into the town shooting gallery in East Clocktown, take a moment before you start blasting Octoroks. Walk up to the counter, switch to first person, and pan around the room. Right beside the proprietor's desk, you'll spot it, a tall, transparent cylinder stacked with colored marbles. That's the Nintendo Tumbler Puzzle, also known as the 10 billion barrel. It's basically Nintendo's take on the Rubik's Cube. You twist the tiers to line up marbles by color. And it was invented by Gunpei Yokoi back in 1980, right before he created the Game & Watch, and eventually the Game Boy. The man went from building plastic brain teasers to changing handheld gaming forever, and in Majora's Mask 3D, that little puzzle sits quietly in the corner of the shooting gallery, tucked among the clutter, just like another piece of set dressing. If you don't stop to look around, you'll miss it entirely, which somehow feels exactly right for a tribute to Yokoi. He always believed in what he called lateral thinking with withered technology. That's the idea of using old, proven hardware in new, clever ways. And that's literally what Majora's Mask was built on. It reused the Ocarina of Time engine, characters, and tools to build something stranger, darker, and faster. The game is a lateral thinking puzzle with outdated technology. Majora's Mask doesn't stop with all the iconic Nintendo references, because next up we have the Wii Remote, and in the game, it's carved by the lovable Gorons. Yep, inside the Goron Shrine, right next to the baby Goron's toy pile, there's a stone-colored, unmistakable replica of Nintendo's Wii Remote. D-pad buttons, wrist strap nub and all, just sitting there like it's part of the nursery decor. Because of the fixed camera angle, you'll probably walk right past it without noticing, but if you step near the toys on the left side of the room, then toggle to first-person view and pan slowly across the pile, you'll spot it right away. That long rectangular shape? Total Wii Remote silhouette, perfectly stylized and carved rock. And that's the clever part. It's not plastic, it's stone. The Gorons carve everything. Their drums, their furniture, their monuments. So the devs turning a modern controller into a rock sculpture makes the joke fit perfectly into Terminus World. It's a Nintendo cameo that actually feels believable in the game's logic. Of course, the Gorons would chisel their toys out of boulders. This Easter egg didn't exist in the N64 version at all. It was one of several hardware tributes added for the 3DS remake, alongside Rob peeking out in the Curiosity Shop, the GameCube plus Game Boy player combo in the Bomb Shop, and the 10 billion barrel puzzle in the shooting gallery. Together, they form a kind of miniature museum of Nintendo's past, scattered across Termina, half hidden in plain sight. Diving deeper into the weird and deep Nintendo lore, we have a Majora's Mask reference to the Love Tester. Wait, that sounds nothing like a Nintendo toy, but let's see where it's hidden in the game. Inside the Marine Research Lab at Great Bay, if you walk along the workbenches and look closely at the clutter, you'll spot a small white gadget sitting behind some beakers. Flip to first-person view, pan across the flask and glassware, and there it is. Nintendo's Love Tester, a real electronic toy from 1969, designed by Gunpei Yokoi. It's easy to miss, partly tucked behind lab equipment, blending in with the science props, but once you see the little dial and cables modeled into the device, it's unmistakable. For anyone who's never heard of it, the Love Tester was one of Nintendo's earliest electronic products, and honestly, one of its weirdest. Two people would each hold a metal sensor, then hold hands, and the machine would display their love score. It's part toy, part prank, part proto-party gadget, and it's often cited as Nintendo's first ever product that used electronic components. It's another loving little tribute to Gunpei Yokoi, the man who shaped Nintendo's entire philosophy of playful invention, turning small, simple ideas into timeless experiences. And what better place to hide it than a lab full of measurement devices? After all, a love tester is just another instrument for recording data, depending on how you look at it. Some fans like to joke that the marine scientist is looking for love between experiments. There's no confirmation of that, of course, just a fun headcanon. The likely intent was much more straightforward, a wink at Nintendo's early experiments, styled to fit right into the lab's environment. And going along with all the Nintendo references, just like Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask references Star Fox. Open your mask screen in Majora's Mask and look at the second row. Right there you've got the Keaton mask, a fox, the Bremen mask, a bird, the bunny hood, a rabbit, Don Gyro's mask, a frog, and the Mask of Sense, a pig. Now line those up mentally, and it's basically the Star Fox crew: Fox McCloud, Falco Lombardi, Peppy Hare, Slippy Toad, and even Pigma Dengar, all staring back at you through Zelda's mask collection. Fans have been pointing this out since the N64 days, and it's been documented on community wikis, Easter egg lists, and discussion threads ever since. Even in the 3DS remake, the same layout holds: 5 faces and a perfect Star Fox roll call, stacked right across the middle of your inventory screen. Now, to be clear, this one's never been confirmed by Nintendo. There's no developer quote saying, "Yup, we lined up the Star Fox team in Majora's Mask." So treat it as a clever fan read, not canon. But honestly, it fits. It's right there. So, Majora's Mask 3D lets you do a lot of weird stuff. But did you know you can actually go fishing as Fierce Deity Link? Yep, the remake added 2 fishing holes, one in the swamp, one at the ocean, and for some reason, they let you equip the Fierce Deity's mask inside them. You can't use sword beams or combat abilities, but you can 100% stand there, 12 feet tall, glowing like a demigod, and just fish. It's totally intentional too. Nintendo actually coded it in. This isn't a glitch or a debug oversight. It's by design. When you try to leave while still wearing the mask, the fishing hole man immediately stops you and says, Hey, what's with that crazy face, fella? If you leave here looking like that, you'll scare away potential customers and ruin our reputation." So yeah, they accounted for it. He doesn't care that you're the literal incarnation of divine power. He just doesn't want you tanking his Yelp reviews. Inside the building, you can still cast, hook, and reel like normal. You can even sit there posing dramatically in full armor as you pull out tiny fish, which, honestly, is peak Majora's Mask energy. Some players swear the reeling feels a little easier in that form, but that's anecdotal. Maybe it's just the confidence boost. But you can't swing your sword, and you can't leave the hut without taking the mask off first. The fishing hole is basically the one place in Termina where godhood comes with house rules. Here's one of the quietest, most mysterious little details in all of Majora's Mask, and it's been sitting in plain sight for over 20 years. If you climb up to the courtyard roof of the ancient castle of Ikana, then look down toward the row of tall stone pillars lining the outer edge, you might spot something strange perched on top of one of them, a tiny white paper aeroplane. It's easy to miss. The camera angle makes it tricky to see, and you'll need to tilt into first-person view and scan the left-hand row of pillars when facing the castle from the yard. But once you find it, sitting quietly on the southeastern pillar, you'll realize it's exactly what it looks like, a small folded paper plane just resting there. It has no hitbox. You can't grab it, shoot it, or trigger anything. It's not part of a side quest or a hidden reward. It's just there. Players have been noticing it since the early 2000s, and Majora's Mask 3D even kept it in the remake. Same spot, same simple white model, still doing nothing at all. Multiple community catalogs and GameFAQs threads confirm it's a non-interactive prop, a leftover, or maybe just a bit of environmental storytelling. And that's where the theories start. Some fans like to think it's a child's toy, left behind before Ikana's fall, a bit of innocence in a kingdom full of ghosts. Others imagine it as a symbol of memory, or of something fleeting caught in time. There's even the occasional theory that it was once tied to a cut side quest, or notebook test, though there's never been any real evidence of that. Since we are still in Ikana Castle, let me tell you something that can make you feel like Michael Jackson straight from Thriller. The Redeads, those shrieking nightmare zombies, will actually start dancing if you wear the right mask. Yeah, seriously. Put on the Gibdo mask, the captain's hat, or the Gyro's mask, and the Redeads just stop attacking completely. Instead, they freeze for a second, and then start twirling, spinning, swaying, even bowing, like they're performing some eerie, long-forgotten routine. Take the mask off, and they instantly snap back to hostility, lunging and screaming like usual. But keep it on, and you can walk right past them, or just stand there and watch the strangest undead dance recital in Zelda history. Now here's where it gets really interesting. If you talk to a gossip stone in the area, it explains that the Redeads in Akana Castle are actually the reanimated corpses of the castle's dancing troupe. So when you wear one of those masks, symbols of undead authority, they're recognizing you as one of their own, and instinctively returning to the only thing they remember doing in life, dancing. It's such a perfect little twist, something that flips what you thought you knew about those enemies. They're not just random horror fodder anymore, they're echoes of performers who never stopped performing, even after death. It's also Majora's Mask at its finest, turning menace into melancholy. Okay, so you probably know the Indigogos as Termina's resident Zora Rock legends. But did you know that their sound check in the Milk Bar hides one of the most layered musical callbacks in the entire Zelda series? On day 1 or 2, if you head into the Milk Bar latte wearing Romani's mask, you'll find Toto, the Indiegogo's manager, setting up for a sound check. He'll ask for your help recreating the band's old standby. What follows is this quiet, beautiful little moment where Link assembles the song Ballad of the Windfish, but not quite the one you think it is. Each of Link's forms takes a part. Deku Link handles the pipes, Goron Link joins in with the drums, Zora Link brings out the guitar, and finally, Human Link ties it all together on the ocarina. The four come together in this soulful arrangement that fills the empty Milk Bar with warmth and nostalgia. When Gorman hears it, he suddenly gets misty-eyed, saying it reminds him of better times. As thanks, he gives you the troop leader's mask, a literal token of his emotion. But here's the twist. Despite the name, this isn't the same Ballad of the Windfish from Link's Awakening. The melody is totally different. In Majora's Mask, it's the Indigogos' old classic, a song from their earlier lineup with the original Lulu. It's not a reprise, it's a reflection. And that's what makes it so thematically perfect. Majora's Mask is all about memory, repetition, and things slightly out of sync. The Indigogos don't just perform, they echo. Their songs are nostalgic, even within their own world. If you poke around Zora Hall, you can hear more of this musical memory game. Japis, the bassist, riffs on the original NES dungeon theme. Tijo, the drummer, plays a rhythm straight out of A Link to the Past's caves. And Evan, on piano, practices the Game Over jingle from the NES days. None of this is spelled out in the dialogue. You just have to stop and listen. And when you do, you realize the Indigogos aren't just a band. They're like living echoes of the Zelda franchise's past. Majora's Mask's world is obsessed with time, cycles, and memory, so of course, its musicians would be the ones keeping history alive through song. So here's a fun one that tripped up Zelda fans for over a decade. Where did the name Majora actually come from? Back in 2015, producer Eiichi Aonuma told Nintendo Dream that art director Takuya Imamura had coined the word Majora. That's the original Japanese title, Majora no Kamen, by combining his own surname with a movie title. At the time, everyone thought the movie he meant was Jumanji. It fit, right? Masks, chaos, mysterious magic board games, easy connection. That version of the story spread everywhere. But jump to 2023, and Imamura finally cleared it up himself. In an interview with VGC, he laughed and said, "It came from my name, Ima, plus Jura from Jurassic Park. I'm a big fan, so Imajura. That's where the name came from." That's it. Majora literally started as a mashup of Imamura and Jurassic Park. No deep mythos, no Brazilian mask mystery, just a designer's cheeky little wordplay and a nod to Spielberg's dinosaurs. When the game was localized, Majora became Majora, giving us Majora's Mask. It's the same name, just anglicized for English audiences. And that small change turned Imajura into something that sounds mythic, like it's been echoing through temples for centuries. Now, over the years, fans have floated all sorts of theories to explain the name. One of the most famous is the Marojawara culture theory. linking the word to the Brazilian Majora tribe's art, which features beautifully ornate masks. The resemblance is real, but there's zero developer confirmation of that connection. It's a cool coincidence, not canon. So, Majora was coined by art director Takeya Imamura from Imamura, plus Jura, inspired by Jurassic Park. Earlier reports mentioned Jumanji, and fan theories pointed to the Majora culture. But Imamura's 2023 clarification pins it on Imajura. You've probably seen it 100 times without realizing it, sitting right there on the Happy Mask salesman's enormous backpack, staring at you with a big round nose and a red cap marked with a familiar M. Yep, that's Mario's face, strapped to the back of the creepiest man in Majora's Mask. When you first meet the salesman in the clock tower after reclaiming your ocarina, try this. Slowly pan the camera around behind him. His pack fills almost the entire screen, covered in masks and faces. And there it is. Clear as day, our favorite plumber immortalized as a collectible mask among the others. And it's not just in that first scene. Every later meeting with him inside the clock tower room shows it too. As long as you rotate the camera, the model itself has that Mario mask built right into the mesh. It's one of those classic Nintendo in-jokes, subtle enough to miss, but undeniable once you spot it. The mustache, the nose, the hat, they're all there. The cameo shows up in both versions. In the N64 original, the Mario mask is part of his pack from the start. Fans caught it even back in 2000. In the 3DS remake, it's still there, preserved exactly as is, while the devs added other nods like the GameCube-like machine in the Bomb Shop and the Wii Remote toy in the Goron Shrine. You've heard it before. That faint, tinkling little waltz that spills out of the music box house in Iconic Canyon once you restore the spring. It's the sound that literally drives Gibdos back into the ground, clearing the way for you to reach Pamela and her father. But if you've ever paused there for a second, maybe turned up the volume, something about that melody probably felt weirdly familiar. That's because the Icona music box theme sounds suspiciously close to Super Mario 64's merry-go-round music from Big Boo's Haunt. Both are these looping, off-kilter waltzes in 3/4 time, each built around a simple repeating phrase, and both manage to sound playful and creepy at the same time. Mario's version uses that eerie pipe organ calliope sound. Majora's uses a fragile little music box timbre, but rhythmically, they're twins. Same lilting swing, same hypnotic loop. It's not a fan stretch either. Community write-ups and mashups have pointed it out for years, and once you line them up, the connection is unmistakable. The through line makes perfect sense. Koji Kondo had a hand in both soundtracks, and he's famous for reworking his own motifs to fit new moods. What's bright and circus-like in Super Mario 64 becomes brittle and haunted in Majora's Mask. You ever notice how Majora's Mask's finale feels almost too calm? You climb into the moon expecting chaos, thunder, bosses, fire, and instead you get a quiet field, a single tree, and children playing under an unmoving sky. It's not horror. It's not triumph. It's that weird, weightless silence right before everything ends. That tone, that calm before the end, actually lines up eerily well with the climaxes of Space Battleship Yamato, the 1970s sci-fi epic. Both stories pull the same trick. After hours of racing against annihilation, they suddenly stop. Everything goes still. In Majora's Mask, that stillness takes the form of the moon's meadow, soft light, soft music, and masked children testing Link's resolve. In Yamato, it's the quiet tableau before or after the final battle, the crew standing together on a beach or staring into the stars as the clock runs out. Both moments make you feel the weight of time by taking it away. And speaking of clocks, both worlds are literally running on one. Termina's 3-day countdown mirrors Yamato's doomsday timer to save Earth. That ever-ticking pressure makes their peaceful final scenes feel unreal, like the world itself is holding its breath. What's really going on here is structure. Each finale uses a liminal space, a pause between chaos and closure, where the hero has to make a choice. Inside the moon, Link faces the Mori children, questions of identity and meaning, and finally the will to confront Majora. In Yamato, the characters wrestle with sacrifice, survival, and purpose. Both use quiet as a mirror for the hardest decisions. And the emotional trick is the same in both. Contrast as a weapon. Silence makes the final noise hit harder. Soft images, a green field, calm sea, sharpen the dread of what's coming next. Well, the moon is something that you are definitely not looking forward to. But when you look at the moon, there is something else that you notice. The stars. And they're looking at you just like the moon. Well, not literally. The secret was hidden from the gamers for 20 years. But in a personalized way. Those little twinkling white stars you see over Termina at night, their positions are generated from the name you type when you start your save file. Yeah, your file name literally writes the stars. If two players both name their file Link, they'll see the exact same star field, but change that name to Zelda, and the constellations subtly rearrange themselves. It doesn't change gameplay, it doesn't affect the moon, it's just pure cosmic flavor, a quiet, invisible handshake between you and the game. This secret came out in 2021 when programmer Zel640 dug into Majora's Mask's code and found the star seeding routine. The discovery blew up online over 2 decades after the game's release. Press outlets like NME and DualShockers confirmed that the algorithm literally reads the text you type and turns it into unique star coordinates. Since you can use up to 8 characters in your file name, that means billions of possible sky variations. One analysis pegged the upper bound at around 5.3 billion unique patterns, though not all combinations are valid ASCII characters. Still, that's an insane amount of personalization for something 99% of players never noticed. Want to try it yourself? Start 2 new files, one named Link, one named Zelda. Step outside Clocktown on a clear night, look up, you'll see 2 entirely different skies. Triforce, the core symbol in the mythos of the Zelda game, makes a return in this game. Up in Ikana Canyon, on your way to the Stone Tower Temple, you'll start spotting something familiar carved into the ruins. Triforce symbols. Yep, Hyrule's sacred emblem of the 3 golden goddesses, sitting right there in Termina, a world that worships totally different deities. In the N64 version, the Triforce icons appear on the ascent to Stone Tower, etched into pillars and walls. And inside the temple, when you flip the dungeon upside down, you'll notice that the undersides of certain moving blocks have Triforces carved into them. That alone is odd, but then there are the statues. Grotesque stone faces with long tongues extended, literally licking the Triforce carvings beneath them. That visual combo, the sacred symbol of Hyrule being licked by idols in a tower built by a fallen kingdom, is why this place got its fan nickname, the Stone Tower of Babel. Now, none of this is ever spelled out in dialogue. The game never mentions blasphemy or divine rebellion, but because Termina's mythology revolves around the 4 giants and the goddess of time, not Hyrule's goddesses, seeing those Triforces appear only here feels intentional. It's like a quiet challenge to the world above, or to the gods themselves. When Majora's Mask 3D released, a lot of those Triforce carvings were removed or altered, which fans immediately noticed. The change looked deliberate, like Nintendo wanted to steer away from any theological overtones that connected Termina to Hyrule's religion. Majora's Mask is one of those games that lets you kill NPCs, but I'd say you shouldn't do it, because death has consequences. Meet Sakon, the thief in North Clocktown. On the night of the first day, around 12:30 a.m., he runs up and steals the old lady's bomb bag from the bomb shop. Normally, you're supposed to dash in and hit him with your sword to stop him. Do that, and he drops the bag. The old lady thanks you, and you get the blast mask as a reward. That's the intended solution. Heroic, clean, textbook Zelda. But if you get creative, say you use a bow, a bomb, or even your shiny new blast mask, things go sideways fast. Hit Sakon with any projectile or explosive, and you don't just stop him, you vaporize him. No body, no bag, just a white flash and poof. He's gone. The old lady doesn't thank you. You don't get the blast mask, and the bomb bag is lost forever. Players have tested this for years, and community videos show the exact outcome. One explosion, one less thief in Termina. And here's where it gets even darker. When you blow him up, he's gone for the rest of that 3-day cycle. No ambient Sakon walking around. No Anju and Kafi side quests later on. He's the one who opens the hideout door. You've basically erased him from existence and soft-locked a big chunk of Termina's story. So what happens depending on your choices? Stop him with your sword, you get the blast mask right away, and the big bomb bag restocks at the bomb shop the next day. Let him escape, he sells the stolen bag at the curiosity shop on the final night, at a markup. Blow him up, nothing. No bag, no blast mask, and you've nuked your chance to finish the Caffey quest this cycle. Skull Kid's behavior actually changes depending on which day you're watching him. In the N64 version, and still in the 3DS remake, the Astral Observatory Telescope doesn't just show you a single animation, it gives you a glimpse of Skull Kid's slow unraveling across Termina's doomed 3 days. Day 1 or Day 2, he's in full gremlin mode. Zoom in and you'll see him taunting you. The famous butt slap, the mocking pose, the playful chaotic energy. It's mischievous, cocky, Skull Kid being Skull Kid. Then the moon's tear drops, the camera pulls back, and life in Clocktown goes on, for now. But come back on Day 3, and the tone is completely different. No dance, no taunting, no cartoon villain energy. He just stands there, twitching, staring down at the world below. His eyes are locked on the moon, not on you. That spark of mischief, it's gone, replaced by something blank and possessed. And if you check again during the final hours, between 6 p.m. and midnight, it gets even colder. He doesn't react to you at all. No gestures, no movement, just this eerie stillness while the moon looms right above him. It's subtle, but it's one of those perfect Majora's Mask touches, the kind that shows the world moving even when you're not looking. Skull Kid's descent from prankster to puppet happens in plain sight, but only if you think to look twice. Want to see it for yourself? On Day 1, get the bomber's code, crawl through the hideout, and use the telescope to watch him taunt you. That's when the moon's tear falls. Then come back on Day 3, zoom in again, and watch his animation change completely. The 3DS remake keeps all of this intact, just a few staging tweaks around the observatory, but the day-by-day behavior shift is still there. Here's a tip to save you some quick rupees. Head out to Icona Canyon, into that eerie little hut called the Spirit House, the one run by the Poe Collector, where you can refight the 4 Poe sisters from Ocarina of Time for a heart piece. Normally, when you walk in and talk to him, he asks for 30 rupees to start the challenge. But there's a secret, and it's so Majora's Mask. If, before speaking to him, you stand there and play the Song of Healing, the Poe Collector actually reacts. He pauses, almost like he recognizes the song's power, and then he says something along the lines of, "You cannot heal all souls with that song. I'd like to take 30 rupees, but I shall take 10 rupees. And just like that, he drops the price to 10 rupees. That's right, your compassion literally gets you a discount. You can then go ahead and take on Joe, Beth, Amy, and Meg, the 4 Poe sisters, for your heart piece reward. And the entire fight plays out as usual. It's such a small touch, but it fits perfectly with Majora's Mask's tone. A world obsessed with memory, grief, and the act of healing. Even this lonely spirit merchant, surrounded by ghosts, acknowledges the song that soothes the dead, and gives you a little break for understanding it. And yes, this detail is in both versions, N64 and 3DS. Guides and speedrunners still call it out today as one of the rare examples where Link's song affect economics. So next time you're heading into the Spirit House, play a tune before you pay. Even the dead appreciate a little music therapy. You know those creepy blue flaming skulls floating around Termina? Yeah, those guys are called blue bubbles, and they're basically airborne bad moods with teeth. The moment one of them brushes against you, boom, you're jinxed. Suddenly Link can't swing his sword for almost a full minute. 50 seconds of running around defenseless while that mocking flame dances off into the night. But here's the part most players miss. You don't actually have to wait it out. Majora's Mask secretly gives you one of the most satisfying "get off me" buttons in Zelda history. Just pull out your ocarina and play the Song of Storms. That's it. The second the first note hits, the jinx is gone. It's not just a coincidence either. The game literally flags the Song of Storms as a curse-cleansing spell. The same song you use to bring back the rain or fix broken mechanisms is also coded to wipe out bad magic, whether it's a Skull's Curse or Sharp's river-blocking spell in Icona. If you're more of a potion person, that works too. Drinking a red or blue potion, sipping milk, or even brushing against a great fairy will clear the curse instantly. But let's be honest, breaking dark magic with a thunderous ocarina solo? That's way cooler. And even if you do get cursed mid-fight, don't panic. Link can still swing the Great Fairy Sword, because technically it's mapped to a different button, and the Fierce Deity Link, he's completely immune, because of course he is. Now if you actually want to fight blue bubbles instead of just survive them, here's the trick. Raise your shield. The moment their blue flame snuffs out, they're stunned and wide open for a hit. Or if you're feeling flashy, just fire a light arrow. They'll explode in one shot, often dropping a nice fat purple rupee as a thank you for your effort. Another in the praise of the Song of Storms, it also helps you in the Child's Trial. Inside the moon, during the Twin Mold's Child's Trial, you're supposed to do a few tricky tasks. Use bomb chews to blow up a hidden wall, shoot a frozen eye switch, climb a ladder, and make your way through the puzzle. It's meant to test everything you've learned about precision and timing before the finale. But what if I told you there's a way to skip all of it? No bomb chews, no arrows, no problem, with just one song. Right before the Iron Knuckles room, if you stop in front of the nearby Gossip Stone and play the Song of Storms, something strange happens. The game's internal logic flags the puzzle solved condition, without you ever touching a switch. When you defeat the Iron Knuckle, the ladder behind it is already there. You just climb up like the hero who definitely did all the work. It gets even better. After the Iron Knuckle, when you reach the area with the heart piece and the frozen eye switch, there's another Gossip Stone tucked off to the side. Play the Song of Storms again, and bam, the exit door opens. No bomb chews, no arrows, no ice puzzles. The game just thinks you did everything. So why does this work? Under the hood, the moon's Gossip Stones are coded to release a great fairy when you play certain songs. But in this specific trial, the developers reused the same flags for the fairy event and the puzzle's completion check. So when the fairy trigger goes off, it accidentally marks the puzzle as finished too. Speedrunners absolutely love this one. It's a clean, repeatable skip that saves precious time without breaking the game. And the best part? It's not version specific. This quirk works on both N64 and 3DS, meaning even the remake carried over the original's strange wiring. Alright, here's one of those blink and you'll miss it secrets hiding in plain sight. One that most players never notice because it feels like nothing special is happening, until it does. If you've ever spent some time swatting those annoying blackbirds, the guays, you might have noticed they just keep coming back. They're easy kills, great for a couple of rupees, and that's usually where it ends. But Majora's Mask actually rewards your persistence. If you keep taking them out, around 10 in a row in the same area, something new shows up. Out of nowhere, a giant guay swoops down. It's the same kind of bird, just way bigger. Think of it as the flock's boss showing up to see what's going on. Now don't worry, it's not tougher or faster. It's more of a, hey, you've been busy cameo. When you shoot it down, it drops a higher value rupee payout as a little thank you for your trouble. It's the same mechanic carried over from Ocarina of Time, but here in Termina. Feels like a hidden bit of ecology. The more chaos you cause, the more the world reacts. If you want to try it yourself, Ikana Canyon is the perfect hunting ground. Guays respawn constantly here, especially around the approach to the ancient castle of Ikana and the canyon cliffs. Keep your bow ready, knock out about 10 in a row, and then look to the sky. The big one will glide in for its dramatic entrance. You can also trigger it in Termina Field, or even out by Zora Cape, anywhere the skies are busy enough. It's one of those little hidden reward loops that makes Majora's Mask so endlessly weird and alive. Even the birds have a pecking order. Alright, let's talk about one of Clocktown's most unintentional comedians, the swordsman at the Mighty Training Center in West Clocktown. This guy's whole deal is bravado. His motto? The way of the sword is a straight and true path. He even carved it into a sign by the door. But as with most things in Majora's Mask, that confidence doesn't hold up forever. When you first meet him, he offers 2 courses. The novice course costs just 1 rupee. It's a basic sword tutorial, perfect if you forgot which end of the blade is which. But the expert course is where things get interesting. For 10 rupees, You're thrown into a timed challenge to cut down 10 wooden dummies as they pop up around the dojo. Each normal strike gets you 1 point, but if you manage to land a jump attack, locking on, hopping to the side or back and pressing A, that's worth 3 points. Go 10 for 10 with perfect jump attacks and you'll land a flawless 30 out of 30 score. And earn yourself a piece of heart. Easy to say, not so easy to pull off. The trick is rhythm. You want to keep the camera centered, side hop cleanly, and slice through the center of each log. Miss one, and your perfect score vanishes faster than your rupees in a deco scrub shop. Most players do a dry run first to get the timing, then go all in for the heart piece attempt. But here's where things get weird. This guy has unique reactions to a ton of masks, and some of them are downright uncomfortable. If you walk in wearing the Great Fairy's mask, he refuses to train you and says, and I quote, "Hey, that's not bad. That girl's mask is very beautiful. I'll lose my focus if I try to instruct you while you're wearing that. Leave it at home, or I could keep it for you." Yeah. Suddenly, the mighty swordsman gives off more guy at the bar after 2 Chateau Romani's energy. He's got lines for plenty of other masks too, insulted by the smell of the mask of sense, unnerved by others, and fans have cataloged all of them over the years. It's a surprisingly detailed bit of NPC flavor for a one-room minigame. But Majora's Mask being Majora's Mask, even this joke character gets a dark ending. On the final day, the training center closes up early, around 11 p.m. But if you sneak in after hours, slash down the sign inside, and slip through the back door, you'll find him hiding, shaking and muttering to himself, I don't want to die." That bold motto on his wall suddenly feels like a cruel joke. Even the guy who spends his day preaching courage can't face the moon when it's right above him. Alright, let's talk about one of the most infamous legends ever born out of Majora's Mask. A story so well crafted that for a while, people genuinely thought it might be real. You've probably heard the name before, been drowned. And yeah, this one's a trip. So picture this, it's September 2010, and a user named Alex Hall, posting under the handle JDoozable, shows up on 4chan's paranormal board, /x/. He writes a story about finding an old, used copy of Majora's Mask at a garage sale. Nothing weird yet, except that the cartridge has a single save file on it, titled Ben. At first, he just plays it normally, but then things start going off the rails. The music reverses, NPCs start saying the wrong lines, and the game begins spitting out creepy text boxes like, "You shouldn't have done that," and not like a typo or random bug, but as if the game itself is talking to him. And here's what made it so effective. This wasn't just a written story. He uploaded videos of the haunted gameplay to YouTube, actual Majora's Mask footage, but glitched and warped in ways that looked real enough to mess with your head. He even referenced real Zelda glitches, like the Day 4 exploit, stuff only hardcore fans knew about. It gave the whole thing this scary authenticity. For a week straight, JDoozable kept posting diary-style updates, each one more disturbing than the last. He'd boot up the game, try to fix the mess, and the haunting would spread. Then suddenly, the posts stopped. The final upload came with a file called thetruth.rtf, implying that whatever spirit was in the game, Ben, had escaped. And that's where people really lost it. See, what started as a creepypasta quickly evolved into a full-blown ARG, an alternate reality game. A few days later, players discovered a mysterious website called youshouldn'thavedonethat.net, linked to a cult called the Moon Children. That site led to another and another, until fans were solving puzzles, decoding ciphers, and even interacting with fake characters through email. The story wasn't just being told, it was playing out across the internet. The series unfolded in arcs. Arc 1, the original haunted cartridge. Arc 2, the Moon Children ARG, where the haunting jumped from the game to the web. Arc 3, Awakening, released 10 years later in 2020, tying everything together and closing the book on the story. What made Ben Drowned brilliant was how deeply it understood Majora's Mask. The game itself is already unsettling. Time loops, masks, an eerie moon slowly descending. The creepypasta just leaned into that. It used Majora's Mask's own imagery, especially the Elegy of Emptiness statue, with the empty, soulless face, and turned it into the perfect horror symbol. And if you played Majora's Mask, you recognized it. That's what made it so effective. It wasn't some made-up ghost model. It was something you'd seen in the real game. The result? It felt plausible. It was the first time the internet saw a haunted video game story told in a format that looked and sounded completely real. And it worked. People thought this dude's cartridge was genuinely cursed. Over time, Been Drowned became one of the pillars of internet horror, right up there with Slenderman. It basically defined what we now call glitch horror, the fear that the thing you trust most, your game, your screen, your safe digital space, is looking back at you. And that one line, "You shouldn't have done that," it's legendary now. It's memed, quoted, and instantly recognizable, even to people who've never played Majora's Mask. So if you ever see that grinning Elegy of Emptiness statue pop up in a random video, or hear someone whisper, "You shouldn't have done that," remember, it all started with one haunted cartridge, one fan, and one of the most creative uses of Majora's Mask's weird, dreamlike world the internet's ever seen. Majora's Mask also has a space program ready, and honestly, it's quite sad. If you ever poke around the bomb shop in West Clocktown, there's a tiny note on the back wall that says, "Planned moon trip. Experiment memo. Try using bomb-powered flight." That's it. No cutscene, no quest, no pop-up, just a scrap of paper pinned behind the counter, like someone's grocery list or a half-baked idea they forgot to finish. Walk behind the counter, tilt into first person, and there it is, surrounded by tools, boxes, and everyday clutter. In the 3DS version, the workshop's even more detailed. Pipes, machinery, little Nintendo Easter eggs, but that same memo is right there, taped up like it's part of their daily routine. And that's kind of the point. The bomb shop isn't run by engineers or heroes. It's a family business, a mother and her son just trying to survive the end of the world. Their whole life revolves around explosives, powder, shells, and timing. So when you realize that their plan to survive the apocalypse is bomb-powered flight, it stops being funny and starts feeling really human. It's not denial, it's not despair, it's hope by invention. The moon's falling, and instead of giving up, they're thinking, maybe we can build our way out. That fits perfectly with how Majora's Mask uses its 3-day loop. Everything about this family's fate depends on whether you help them. If you stop the robbery in North Clocktown on the first night, they restock safely the next day, and the shop stays open. If you don't, their supplies get stolen and they lose their livelihood. Their entire existence turns on a single moment of intervention. So when you see that moon trip memo, you realize it's their last attempt to make something of the little time they have left. And the way the game frames it? Genius. It's quiet. There's no quest marker, no reward, just the ambient hum of the shop and this taped-up dream of escape. You only find it if you're curious enough to look, which makes it feel real, like you stumbled on someone's private hope. By the final day, when the sky outside is low and red and the music is thinning out, that note hits completely different. Inside, the shop is still bright and orderly. Outside, the world's ending. That contrast, calm interior, apocalypse sky, is Majora's Mask distilled into a single shot. It also fits the game's deeper theme, turning danger into possibility. Your own journey does the same thing. You turn bomb flowers into bomb bags. You turn destruction into progress. The bomb shop's moon trip plan mirrors what you do throughout the whole adventure. You take something volatile and find a way to move forward with it. And honestly, that's why this moment lingers. It's not epic or tragic, it's mundane. A crumpled note, a bad idea, taped up like it might matter. But that's exactly how real people face the impossible, not with prophecies or magic, but with a list of steps and a little bit of faith that maybe, somehow it'll work. So next time you're in the bomb shop, step behind the counter, look at that memo, and then pan the camera up toward the sky outside. That's the whole game right there. A doomed world and a single piece of paper daring to imagine a way out. Okay, here's one of those tiny Majora's Mask details that feels like pure playground legend. Except it's actually real. Yep, you can turn butterflies into fairies just by holding a Deku stick. No joke, it's not a glitch, it's not a mod, it's built right into the game's logic, both on the original N64 and in Majora's Mask 3D. Here's how it works. Find a butterfly. You'll spot them fluttering around grassy areas, places like the paths leading into Southern Swamp, near Termina Field holes, or even around the Great Bay Approach. They're tiny, easy to miss, but they love open sunlight and flat ground. Now equip a Deku Stick, just the plain wooden kind. Don't swing it, don't light it, just hold it, and then move really slowly toward a butterfly. Inch forward until one hovers close to the tip of your stick, and when it lands, poof, it transforms into a glowing fairy you can bottle and use for healing later. It's not random, it's not luck, it's deliberate code. The game detects the butterfly's contact point on the stick and swaps its model for a fairy, a hidden conversion that's been sitting in the data since Ocarina of Time. And yeah, this isn't just trivia, it's actually super practical early game. Before you have reliable fairy fountains unlocked, this trick gives you a sneaky way to stock up on healing. Just catch a few butterflies near Clocktown or the swamp, bottle the fairies, and boom, you're set for your next dungeon. But what's so cool here isn't just the mechanic, it's the thought behind it. Zelda's world design has always rewarded curiosity, not tutorials. Nobody tells you this, it's the kind of secret that lives in rumor. Hey, my cousin said you can turn butterflies into fairies if you hold a stick. And sure enough, it's true. There's even a gossip stone in Ocarina of Time that hints at it, saying something like, approach butterflies with a Deku Stick. Majora's Mask quietly keeps that same bit of game logic intact, a tiny invisible carryover from the previous world. So next time you're wandering around Termina, take a moment to slow down, watch where the butterflies land, hold your stick steady, because sometimes, even in the middle of the apocalypse, a little care and calm can make something beautiful and life-saving appear right in front of you. Your final showdown changes once you've already beaten it, not just the cutscene, but Tattle herself. On your first trip up the clock tower during the final hours, Tattle is scared, and honestly, who wouldn't be? The sky is red, the moon is seconds from impact, and everything's coming apart. When the giant finally stops the moon and Majora's Mask peels off Skull Kid, Tattle hesitates. She panics. Her dialogue reflects it perfectly. Ah, no, don't tell me you're going up there. I won't do it. I'm staying here with Tail. You go by yourself. Then Tail, her brother, quietly offers to go instead. That's when Tattle snaps out of it, steels herself and says, I understand. I'll go. It's one of her strongest little moments, that human flicker of fear, then courage. But here's where it gets wild. Once you finish the game and loop back to the end on the new save file, Tattle remembers. She doesn't experience the finale like it's brand new anymore. Instead of fear, she's confident. Right as the moon looms overhead, she says, that's it. I won't let things go the way you expect them to. She's not pleading anymore. She's defiant. When the giants intervene, she doesn't sound surprised either. Instead, she's processing it in real time. You can tell she knows what's happening. Good. We made it in time. The giant's call worked on the Skull Kid. Hey Skull Kid, do you realize what you've been doing to everyone? I figured it out. That line, I figured it out, is a quiet confirmation that she's living through memory. She's already connected the dots. She knows Majora's about to separate from Skull Kid. She's anticipating it. It's subtle. There's no flashy New Game Plus banner, no text box saying Tattle remembers, but longtime players and data miners caught it. This second version of the finale plays for every future cycle after your first win. She's literally the only major character in Majora's Mask who remembers across resets. Everyone else starts fresh every loop, but not Tattle. Her tone, her lines, even her timing shift, as if the player's knowledge has bled into her too. And it's such a clever narrative trick. The whole game is built around learning through repetition, around using memory to change outcomes. And Tattle, your guide and conscious through it all, embodies that. The first time, she's terrified of what's coming. The next time, she's already braced for it, just like you are. She doesn't just follow you into the moon, she evolves with you. The Lens of Truth, one of the most famous items in the series, isn't just hidden behind a cave wall or a mini-boss. In Majora's Mask, it's waiting across a literal invisible bridge, one that changes every day. From Mountain Village, make your way along the frozen trail to Goron Village, that winding path full of snow, bridges, and that oddly cozy winter music. Once you reach the far side of Goron Village, head east. You'll find Kaepora Gaebora, the owl. perched on a ledge overlooking what looks like a deadly, empty chasm. Talk to him. He'll flap off into the void and start dropping feathers, one at a time, each one landing on an invisible platform suspended in thin air. You can't see the platforms, only the trail of feathers. And here's the trick. Those feathers are your first and only visual guide. You've got to follow them across, jump by jump, until you reach the cave entrance, tucked into the cliff on the other side. That's the Lone Peak Shrine, the hidden chamber that holds the lens of truth. Inside, there's no boss, no trap, just a chest waiting for you. Pop it open, and now you've got the tool that lets you see the unseen. Invisible walls, fake floors, hidden spirits. It all becomes clear. But here's the cruel joke. On your way back, the owl feathers are gone. The platforms are still invisible, and this time, you have to rely entirely on your brand new lens of truth to make it across. And that's when most players discover something surprising. The pattern of the invisible platforms actually changes depending on the day. Day 1, the route leans gently to the left. Day 2, it zigzags, weaving back and forth. Day 3, it skews right before curving back toward the cave. Alright, if you've played Majora's Mask, you already know that Woodfall Temple loves throwing bugs, fire, and chaos at you. And one of the sneakiest nuisances in there are those glowing fiery pests known as moths. They look harmless at first, just little flittering dots of light, until they start swarming you the second you light a torch or pull out a bomb. Suddenly, it's a mini inferno and you're taking hits faster than you can roll away. So here's how to handle them like a pro. First thing to understand, moths are attracted to anything on fire. If you're holding a lit Deku stick, they'll come straight for it. Pull out a bomb, same thing. That fuse counts as fire in the game's logic. Even a powder keg being lit will act like a beacon to every moth in the room. They'll swirl around it until it explodes. Now here's the cool part. You can use that behavior against them. If you're in one of those woodfall rooms full of moths, don't panic. Bait them, light a bomb, wait a second, and let the swarm come in close. Then just drop it and backflip away. The moths will cluster around it and boom, problem solved. One well-timed explosion wipes out the whole group. If you've got a powder keg, even better. The long fuse gives them time to gather, light it, step back, and watch as they all rush to their fiery doom. It's basically a Goron-engineered bug zapper. If you're low on bombs or don't want to mess with fuses, fire arrows are your next best friend. A single shot can burn through several moths at once, and it's great for keeping your torches lit without juggling sticks. Now, if you want a no magic, no explosives route, unequip anything burning, move away from the torches, and wait for them to lose interest. Then just pick them off calmly with normal arrows or a swing of the Great Fairy's sword. They're weak. It's just their swarm AI makes them annoying. A couple of extra tips that'll save you mid-dungeon. Don't carry a lit stick while thinking about puzzles. Light your torches, then immediately put the stick away. Otherwise, you're basically wearing a "come bite me" sign. Time your explosions. Drop the bomb, count to 3, and let the swarm come in before the blast. You'll get a perfect cleanup. And that's the secret. Moths in Majora's Mask aren't really enemies. They're just misunderstood little fire seekers. They're like real-life moths attracted to flames. In Majora's Mask, the Gerudo guards patrolling the pirate's fortress aren't as all-seeing as they seem. Their detection system is driven primarily by movement, not constant vision. In other words, many of them only flag Link if he's moving on the ground within their line of sight. Because of that, players and speedrunners have discovered that side-hopping or standing still at precise moments can let you slip through their patrols entirely undetected, even while technically in view. When confronted, the guards can't be defeated permanently. Arrows or Zora Link's fins will stun them for a few seconds, but they always recover and resume patrol. If a guard catches you, the outcome is fixed. Link is immediately thrown out of the fortress, and you must re-enter from outside to continue. Players also report that nighttime infiltration is easier. While there's no official statement about reduced detection at night, community testing across versions shows that the darker lighting and shorter sightlines make it less likely for guards to notice you. The stealth behavior itself remains consistent, but nighttime staging and visibility give the illusion and practical advantage of looser patrols. Together, these quirks define how stealth truly operates in the pirate's fortress. Detection depends on motion and proximity, not a traditional vision cone, and time of day subtly affects how forgiving the section feels. What appears to be strict stealth design is, in reality, a surprisingly specific set of behavioral checks, one that experienced players have learned to read and exploit with precision. Now, if you really want to cheese this section and make the Gerudo pirates look really incompetent at their jobs, just wear the stone mask. Is that a JoJo reference? And poof, you are completely invisible to the pirates. You can walk past them and they won't notice you at all. To get this mask in the N64 version, you need to head to the outskirts of Ikana Canyon with your lens of truth, as you would need it to spot the invisible soldier named Shiro. By offering a red or blue potion to heal off his injuries, he later thanks you by giving you the stone mask. In the 3DS remake, Nintendo went out of their way to make sure that you use the stone mask to cheese through the pirate base, as Shiro has shifted his resting spot from Ikana to the pirate base for some reason. The dialogue exchange plays the same as usual, and you end up with the stone mask. Go ahead, Link, reject your humanity. In Majora's Mask, the flaming skull-like enemies known as blue bubbles have one of the most specific and reliable drop patterns in the game, and it all depends on what type of arrow you use to hit them. If you defeat a blue bubble with a normal arrow or a melee attack, the game pulls from a generic drop pool, typically 3 hearts or 3 green rupees, depending on your current health and needs. It's a standard refill behavior meant to keep you stocked during exploration. Switch to ice arrows though and the result changes. Every ice arrow kill yields a single heart. Consistent, but not ideal if you're trying to build wealth or resources. It's designed as a survival drop, not a farming one. Fire arrows are where it starts to get useful. Burning down a blue bubble forces them to drop a bundle of 30 arrows, making this method one of the most efficient ways to restock ammo inside temples or during long field runs. Players often use this in dungeons like Stone Tower or Woodfall, where arrow consumption is heavy. But the real prize comes with light arrows. If you strike a blue bubble with a light arrow, it's hard-coded to drop a purple rupee worth 50 every single time. This consistency is confirmed across guides, wikis, and community farming routes. In practice, that makes blue bubbles one of the most lucrative renewable money sources in Majora's Mask. When you leave Clock Town for the very first time in Majora's Mask, the game quietly rewards you with a one-time cinematic, a sweeping panorama of Termina Field that plays only once per save file. Most players remember the shot that pans towards the southern swamp, but what many never realize is that there are 4 different versions of this intro, one for each gate leading out of Clock Town. Here's what's actually happening behind the scenes. The moment your first file loads Termina Field from any gate, the game fires a specific "Welcome to Termina" camera script tied to that direction. Once that cutscene flag is set, it never plays again for that file, no matter which other gates you use later. So the first exit you take doesn't just shape your early route, it literally defines the cinematic that introduces you to Termina. Each version is distinct, giving a slightly different flavor to the world's first impression. The South Gate shows the southern swamp panorama, the most common version, since the story naturally points you south. The camera glides low over the grass, through the log tunnel, and toward the humid horizon of Woodfall. It's the iconic swamp reveal. The East Gate shows the observatory and Ikana Path. This one's rarer, showing the astral observatory glinting in the distance and framing the rising hills toward Ikana Canyon, a more mysterious, melancholic version of the field. The North Gate shows the Snowhead Ascent. The shot here rises dramatically toward the jagged cliffs and fungal hills that mark the road to the Goron region. Colder, thinner light, hinting at altitude and isolation. And the West Gate shows the ranch and Great Bay horizon. Arguably the most cinematic sweep, a broad daylight view catching the farmlands of Milk Road and the faint shimmer of Great Bay in the distance. It's bright, airy, and feels like freedom. Because you only get one per save, most players never even realize there are 4 unique versions. To see the others, you'd have to start new files or use speedrunning tools to reset the trigger flag. Let's talk about Majora's Mask 3D's biggest fish. Literally, his name is Chapu Chapu, and if that sounds familiar, it should. It's basically Jabu Jabu's little cousin, a massive, sacred-looking fish who lurks deep in the swamp fishing hole, waiting for a lucky or very patient player to reel him in. You'll only find Chapu Chapu in the swamp fishing hole, the one just off the road to Southern Swamp, next to the swamp shooting gallery. He doesn't show up on the shop's posters, there's no in-game mention of him, and the owner never hints he exists, but the moment you spot that huge shadow gliding under the water, you'll know you found the local boss. Now, here's how his behavior actually works. Chapu Chapu can appear on any day, at any time in Majora's Mask 3D. Most players see him hanging near the northeast corner of the lake, tucked in a little underwater cave, draped with seaweed. You'll know he's there when a shape far too big for any normal fish slides past the camera. The trick to hooking him is one of the most creative in the entire fishing minigame. You don't bait him directly, you use another fish. Catch a normal fish that's at least 30 centimeters long, keep it on your line, and swim it close to Chapu Chapu's lair. He'll charge in and swallow your catch whole, stealing the hook in the process. And suddenly you're reeling in him. It's fishing inception. If you're going for this catch, don't use Deku Link. He reels painfully slow. Most community veterans recommend Fierce Deity Link or Goron Link, who can handle the tension and reel Chapu Chapu in much faster. Some guides also suggest using a sinking lure or letting the bait swim deep to keep it in his path. And if you don't see him yet, just exit and re-enter the fishing shack to refresh the pond spawns. He'll eventually appear. Fans have long tied Chapu Chapu back to a bit of Majora's Mask pre-release history. During the game's early development, when it was still called Zelda Gaiden, Shigeru Miyamoto famously joked in Famitsu interview that if you catch Chapu Chapu, it may even stop the moon from falling. That never made it into the original 2000 game, but it lives on in spirit here. Chapu Chapu feels like a quiet nod to that idea, the mythical fish that never was, finally given a home 15 years later. Here's the big one. The theory that's been hanging over Majora's Mask for nearly 25 years. Is Termina even real? According to the Legend of Zelda Encyclopedia, published by Dark Horse, the answer might be no. The book includes a single, loaded line. Skull Kid, under the influence of Majora's Mask, transforms the world into the land of Termina. That's the origin of the long-running paraphrase. Skull Kid created Termina. But when you actually look at what the game itself shows, things get murkier. In Majora's Mask, Tattle and Tail first meet Skull Kid in Termina before he ever finds the mask. The flashback scene of their friendship happens right there, in the same world you later explore. That implies Termina already existed before Majora's power ever came into play. And after the final battle, when Majora is defeated, Termina doesn't vanish. The festival carries on. People celebrate. Time moves forward. There's no fade out, no dream dissolving, just life continuing. That's why so many fans push back on the created world idea. It doesn't line up with what the game itself depicts. When asked directly about the setting, series producer Eiji Aonuma gave the clearest and most careful answer back in 2015. We described it as being a nearby land, but in feel, it's almost like another dimension. Not a hallucination, not a dream, just different, almost parallel. And fittingly, the very name Termina comes from terminal, meaning a place where people come and go. It's a world defined by passage and impermanence, not necessarily fabrication. So why does the dream interpretation stick around? Because Termina feels like one. Its citizens wear the same faces as people from Hyrule. Their lives echo memories of the past, slightly rearranged. Even its music, the Ballad of the Windfish playing in the milk bar, quietly calls back to Link's Awakening, the Zelda game that was literally a dream. It's not confirmation, but it's the kind of poetic parallel that keeps fans wondering. If you want the cleanest way to think about it, it goes like this. Book version: Skull Kid's heart and Majora's power created Termina. Mythic shorthand, a symbolic creation. Game version: we see Termina before the mask and it still exists after. Developer version: a nearby land, almost another dimension. In the end, that's what makes Majora's Mask so haunting. Termina might be real, or it might be a reflection, a place pulled from Skull Kid's loneliness, or from something even deeper in Link's own journey. It doesn't matter which answer you choose. The beauty of Termina is that it feels like a dream that knows its ending. and asks what you'll do with the time you have left inside it. If you made it this far, you definitely enjoyed the video, so you'll love the one we made about Ocarina of Time too. Go watch it next.